Good morning, good morning, good morning. Luna and I had a good walk. We're here to sit down, try and do a little clip. We'll see if Luna wants me to play ball with her. We'll find out. But I'm going to get started by having a little cup of coffee. I hope you have something to get started on your day. And let's talk about systems. So we're talking about the bill that's being passed, and I told you there's three big areas in it. We discussed the EV tax credit, and we also discussed the uh, hiring all the IRS agents. And I gave a thumbs up for the EVs and a thumbs down for the hiring agents. Not because it doesn't have to be done. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you when it comes to impact on uh, empathy, those two are counter to each other. All right. So let's talk about the third one, which is actually the most interesting when it comes to empathy. So the third one is uh, hold on, my dog dropped the ball, so I'll give it to her. The third one is the minimum 15% tax on corporations that make over $1 billion. So the reason why this one's interesting is because it's not against a person or a group. It is against a corporation, which in the eyes of the law is kind of an individual. Um, they have a lot of the things, a lot of the rights that individuals have. Now, if a 15% minimum tax, let's talk about, let's look at it from the five different types of empathy. First, care. Care is hard. And here's the reason why. Is because it is a it is not something that people can really wrap their minds around. People, you can show an image, like we talked about the EVs and we talked about IRS, you could see people here. Somebody could do a little uh, fake video with people being affected by those two areas of the bill. But when trying to think of a little story snippet or something somebody could make up that made the billion dollar corporation, the 15% impact means something to them. That's hard. That's hard. If I, so care is hard for the part of the bill. And that's kind of a plus. If you're going to have a bill, you don't want the care to be impacted because it is universal. Like I had mentioned before, Democrats and Republicans, everybody cares. So care is pretty universal. So let's skip on that one instead of spending too much time on it. Fairness. Fairness is a little easier. Fairness is still hard for people to wrap their heads around because $1 billion is so large. Um, It is, you may know people who have $1 million, and especially if they're getting to my age and older, and they've been saving for retirement forever. They may have $1 million, but $1 billion, you usually don't get $1 billion unless there's you're very lucky, or you've had a investment strategy or something to help you achieve something that allows you to get that much money. So fairness is hard again to wrap their head around. Now, somebody could do something where they said, you know, here's a company, junk this. Here's a company that made 900 million one year, and then next year they made $1 billion, so they had to pay the 15%, and they're actually trying to do something small or build something up, and it impacts a lot of people. It's going to be tough. So again, fairness is going to be tough. So that's, now we're getting into maybe a problematic thing. When you have too much empathy that cannot be uh, pulled in to keep the system straight, it becomes a little bit more of a problem. Not for the Democrats. That part of the bill, they is political impact on it will probably be very small. If those two areas, those are two critical areas for most of their electorate. So let's talk about the other part, which is not as important for them, and that is we got loyalty, sanctity, and authority. Loyalty. That, that's maybe a little bit more there, because a lot of people actually work for companies that are pretty big. Not the majority, it's quite a few. So quite a few people work for companies that are a $1 billion company, and that can go two ways. They work for them and they don't like them, or they work for them and they do like them. Just depends. We have a company here in Texas called HEB. Really good company for getting them my groceries. Really like them. They treat their employees well. They're a really good company. Um, I don't know. They're probably close to $1 billion company. Maybe they're more. I don't know for sure. But they're an example of everybody I know that's worked for them has really enjoyed their time there. They felt very well treated. There probably are people that don't feel that way, but the majority that I've met, I really can't think of anybody that said something bad. They said things maybe about a supervisor or something like, but not the company itself. So there can be a little bit of loyalty, but it, I don't think that is going to be minor, because I don't see it swayed one way or the other. Okay, let's talk about authority, and then we'll finish up with sanctity, because I think sanctity is the biggest of them all. So authority is kind of tough, because that's actually more of a problem for government. One of the big things the government does with the tax code is they try and steer people in a certain direction. They'll give you tax credit or tax relief for investing in infrastructure. They'll give you, like, if a billion-dollar company says, well, we're going to have a tax bill here, or we can take it and invest in a new plant, and that new plant will be help us produce more money later. And because it's an investment, we can actually subtract it from what we owe the government. There is, and there may be incentives from uh, municipalities and states and other people to have them make that investment. Now, is it's good for that company, but it's also good for the the um, government, because they can push a little bit more. We need to get more people hired. We need to get unemployment down, which is not the case right now. But in sometimes you want to do that. So you'll give these incentives to have people go a little bit more out on the limb because they're going to be stuck with that factory for a long time. So there's a little bit of authority that comes from being able to change the tax code to match what you need for your populace and for your constituents. That goes away a little bit because if it's a 15% minimum, then I hit the roof and it fell over that way. Goodness me. Now she has a feather on her nose. Hmm. You have a feather on your nose, little girl. Anyway, so authority, a little bit, I think. I'm not a tax professional, but I think there's a little less there. The last one, sanctity, I think is the one that might have the most on it. And overall, that means that this bill, this part of the bill, it was really well structured for political things, but I'm not sure it's good for the long term. And I'll get around to that in just a minute. So, sanctity, a lot of times we want to be people to be treated the same, but we do stress, there's a difference between different people's, for income. If you make a lot more income, we want you to pay more taxes. Not a big fan of that, but that's the way it is. I'll talk about that next time, how uh, my view on the tax system and how it's done. So the um, with this law, there is a difference, and it is along a line. It is going to push people that are near that line to either fudge or lie in order to not be impacted. And I wish we could treat everybody equally. I'm sorry that our tax system doesn't actually tax people for things that they should be paying taxes on. To say you have to pay this because you're over this line doesn't seem as fair. So sanctity, I can see of all five, that's the only one that has even a little bit of a glimmer on this part of the bill. So for the Democrats, this is actually a big win, politically speaking. But let's talk about long term. So long term, will that number change? Now, let's keep in mind that money, it's, I always wish they tie things to inflation because the billion now is not going to be a billion in 10 years. It's going to be a different number. Depends on inflation. Could be a much smaller, well, it's going to be a smaller a number that's smaller now. Just don't know how much. So I could see that one going away later on because it's a tough one to, if you don't have any empathy, then it becomes something that nobody cares about. It'll be interesting. You guys probably are aware that every time companies, corporations, I'm sorry, governments come up with a rule like that, then there's another guy over there going, hey, hey, look at this. We have a $1.2 billion company, so we have to pay our 15% tax. Oh, well, that sucks. But if we spin this portion off to another company, there you go. They're both under a billion. Neither one of them have to pay taxes. Oh, well, let's do that. Why not? Well, we don't have the synergy, and it'll mean less uh, less people. Well, oh well, a little inefficient, but we'll save some money. Bigger bigger paycheck for us is in the short term. That's good enough. Yes, I know. I'm grasping at straws. I'm trying to find something. I'm just not as clever as most tax professionals. But I always worry about systems where empathy won't keep us in line. Empathy won't adjust us in the proper direction. The other two parts of the bill, I think it will. I think those are clearly ones that will keep us in line. Bigger IRS and EVs, mostly manufactured in the US. Big plus. But those impact to us and those billion-dollar corporations, well, that's that's something that's going to be long term. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you later.